Hey, first grade artists, it's Miss Jillian here. This is our last week for our 3D classroom expedition number 2 final product. We had a live class today, but unfortunately our record option didn't work, so I'm gonna just do a quick demo with you in case you are still needing to finish your project. Last week, we finished coloring in our 3D classrooms, and then we put tissue paper inside of our classrooms to make them 3D and to stand up all the way. So what we're gonna do today is we're gonna make sure that our bag is really sealed up, first of all. Then second of all, we're gonna add a roof to the top of our classroom so that it looks complete. And also, we're gonna try to hide this flap right here so that our artwork looks nice and tidy and ready to show the rest of our community. So the first thing that we're gonna do, and we kind of started this last week, but just in case you didn't get a chance to do this, you are going to need some glue, some scissors, and an extra piece of paper. I'm using some yellow construction paper. You could use white construction or white paper, scrap paper, whatever you have, as long as it fits over the top of your bag. And this piece is obviously going to be too big for mine, which is what the scissors are for. All right, step number 1, though, is to make sure our bag is sealed, which we just talked about. I'm going to use glue to seal my bag. You could use tape, you could use a stapler, whatever you have to make sure that this stays nice and shut so the tissue paper does not fall out. So in this case, since I'm using glue, I'm going to lift my fold up, and I'm going to put glue in 2 spots. I'm going to put glue right here, and I'm going to put glue right here on the inside, because if I just glue this part down, this part will still flip up. So I want to make sure that I'm putting it in 2 places, on the back of my flap and on the inside of my flap, so it stays nice and flat before I add my roof. I'm going to add just a line of glue, and I'll show you in just a second because I'm using a glue stick that has purple glue until it dries, so you can see it. There's my glue right there. And I'm also gonna add some glue right in here. I'm gonna do that before I put my roof on. I'm gonna do it all at the same time. That was a little bit trickier, but as you can see, I have glue on the inside of my flap. So now, I'm gonna carefully fold it back down, and I'm gonna use a little bit of a craftsmanship tip. So I could just leave my bag like that and the glue would kind of stick, but I want my glue to really stick so that my artwork looks really well done with high quality craftsmanship. So I'm gonna use my hands. Our hands have heat. So when we use the heat of our hands to press our paper together with glue, it helps the glue stick together better. So I'm going to help be adhesive. That's what glue is. By using my hands, kind of like you use an iron to iron clothes, or sometimes moms and other friends use hair straighteners. So it's kind of like that same idea, but I'm just using my hands. So I'm going to hold the spot that's glued together, and I'm going to count to 10. After I count to 10, it should be stuck together so none of the tissue paper will fall out. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Great. It looks pretty well sealed. I don't have the top of my flap lifting up at all. It's pretty stuck together. The next thing that I'm going to do is I need to add a roof. Now, we know that this paper is too big for my classroom because we already measured it. So I see that it's wider than my paper bag and it's way longer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my eyes to carefully look and try to solve my measurement problem. So I know that I want my flap in the back to be covered. So I'm going to take one edge of my paper. I have my paper in portrait while I'm doing this. You could also do it in landscape. It's up to you. I'm going to do it in portrait, and I'm going to line my paper up So it's just a little bit lower than my fold line in the back. That way I know my fold line is totally covered. But now, whew, my classroom is totally covered. So I'm gonna have to get my scissors out. But I also wanna mark on my paper where the top of my paper bag is and where I still have enough room to cover this flat. So I'm pinching at the top, and that's gonna create a little crease in the construction paper to mark where I want my roof to be. All right, so now that I've folded it, I can lift it up. Oh my goodness, look at how much stuff I have to cut off. So I'm gonna start off by cutting right here. So see how I folded that down? I'm gonna cut right here. And I might have to do a little bit more cutting. And if you have an idea of how you can solve the roof challenge in a different way, you can totally do that too. I just wanted to make sure that you had directions if you needed help. So now I can resize my roof. I've trimmed my paper down so you can see my fold. That shows me where the top of my classroom is going to be. I'm going to balance it on top of my paper bag. Amazing. So I'm noticing it's a little bit too long on the sides and too long in the front. It's the perfect length on the back. So the first thing I'm going to do is I want it to come over the sides. I'm going to put this right here so you can see. I want it to come over the sides of the bags a little bit, but not this much. So I'm going to trim a little bit off the side, and then I'm going to resize and see if it fits the way I want it to. Still a little bit bigger than I want it to be. So I'm going to trim just a little bit, because remember, it's always easier to cut off a smaller piece than it is to reattach a piece. Perfect. But now I still can't see a lot of my classroom. So I'm going to have to cut the front, not all the way up to the top, because we still want it to go over the top of our bag, but I'm going to cut it probably about here so that I can see most of my classroom. So here we go. I'm just kind of eyeballing it. So this looks a little bit silly because it's way long in the back and kind of short in the front, but that's okay. So now I'm going to put it over the front. I can see it looks a little bit silly with all of that extra on the side. So I'm going to have to think about what I'm going to do to fix that. Maybe I could do some more cutting along the edge. Oops, perfect. So now you can't see, I just cut this little piece out right here. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So it covers up the back, but you can still see it comes off the front a little bit. So I'm going to do the same thing over here. You can see when we're creating art, sometimes we make mistakes or we come up against challenges and we have to use our creative problem-solving brain to make things work. So now my roof looks like it fits, it covers up the back, and it is ready to go. So the last thing I need to do is I need to attach the roof to my classroom. So I'm going to take this off, the roof off, kind of like my hat for the classroom. And I'm going to be using glue to attach my roof. You could use tape or you could use glue. Please don't use staples because staples will be visible and we want the roof to look nice and neat. So again, I'm going to make sure that I'm putting a thin layer of glue all over the part of my roof paper that's going to connect to my bag. And I'll show you what that looks like in just a second. So I'm putting it on all parts that are going to touch the paper bag so that it sticks really, really well. Again, though, I'm being careful because I don't want lumps and bumps and lakes of glue. So you can see all of the glue that I added, and I didn't add any right here because that part's going to be off the edges of my bag. So that can just stay without glue. And I'm going to fit my roof carefully back over the top of my bag. And again, I'm going to use my same, actually a little bit low. There we go. Perfect. So now I'm going to use my same ironing trick. And I'm going to hold my roof paper in place. Has glue on there. I'm going to hold it in place for 10 seconds so that the paper really adheres, the paper roof adheres to the paper bag. So here we go. 10, 9, 8, 7, I'm counting backwards this time. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And I'm going to give it another, just press together with my hands to make sure that it's really, really stuck. And now I can kind of puff out my edges a little bit. My classroom is done. It has my roof, it has my classroom, and it has my coloring. And then also in the back, I'm noticing that this is coming up a little bit. So that tells me that I need to add some more glue because we really want that tissue paper to stay in there all the way. So I'm gonna fix that and then I will be done. So once your roof is on your building, you will be all done. If you would like to be extra fancy, you could take a piece of just colorful paper and you could, if you wanted to, and I'm gonna just glue it onto here because I have a piece of scrap paper. You could put glue on the bottom of your classroom bag. Actually, you could put it on your paper. So I have my paper right here. I'm gonna put just a big dab of glue. And I'm going to stick my classroom on top of my glue. Looks. Make sure it's really well stuck. Might have to use liquid glue for this. And then our bag looks like a classroom and it's sitting on top of the hallway floor. So if you want to do the floor part, you totally can. You don't have to. I actually think I'm going to take mine off because it doesn't look as well finished as I would like to with this yellow paper. So I might switch to brown or just another color that matches my floor. All right, friends. So once you're done with your roof, just make sure that you take a picture of your completed artwork and turn it in on Google Classroom, and I will see you next time. Next week, new projects, and I will be so happy to see your faces. All right, bye, friends.